All right, we're gonna go ahead. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. And welcome to the 210 of Social Media Week, and this one is the buzz about visual storytelling. Don't forget to live tweet all throughout the session using the hashtag UTSMW16. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started introducing our panel for today. And first, we have Patrick Wells, who is entering his third year at the Tom Briss Group and currently serves as the Senior Social Media Manager and Social Copywriter. He is a native of Greenville, Tennessee. He joined the Tom Briss Group under an account management internship, but quickly transitioned to social media, starting as the Social Community Manager for Farm Bureau Insurance of Tennessee's Farmer Charlie McDonald's in the Tennessee Department of Transportation. After recently being promoted to his current role, he now works on social and digital content for national accounts such as Orange Theory Fitness, the National Highway and Traffic Safety Administration, Visit Gatlinburg, and the agency's new business ventures. Outside of the ad world, he is an avid runner, reader, and tweeter of bad jokes and puns.
Next up will be Abby McCollum. Abby McCollum is the Director of Convergence and Social Media for the home category for Scripps Networks Interactive. In this role, Abby creates a bridge between the on-air programming team, the marketing team, and the digital team. As the convergence lead for the brands, Abby manages a team that creates a digital and social presence for all HGTV shows. She works closely with the interactive ad sales and marketing teams to monetize the digital on-air content, as well as to establish social sponsorship guidelines and campaigns. Abby's background includes editorial and digital programming experience on a variety of websites, including overseeing editorial programming for HGTV.com. Abby produced and managed the most successful social day in Scripps Network interactive history, the all-premier New Year celebration. Since taking over HGTV's Instagram account in August 2012, Abby has increased the number of followers by over 11,000%. So you can say she knows a thing or two about social.
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Miss Asia May. Asia May serves as the Vice President of Marketing for the Indiana State Museum and Historic Sites, a 12-location system of museums that tells the stories about the people, places, and things that shape Indiana. In that role, May directs the marketing strategy, branding, social media, public relations, and advertising activities for the ISMHS. Under her tenure, the ISMHS has seen significant growth in digital and social media, the move to robust digital advertising, and the creation and execution of a unified brand strategy. Previously, May served as the Assistant Director of Strategic Marketing at Purdue University, where she led a team of marketing consultants to provide marketing expertise and implementation to over 80 on-campus clients. May has also helped guide the communication and legislative affairs strategy at the Indiana Commission for Higher Education and served as the communications coordinator for First Lady Judy O'Bannon.
Thank you very much. My name is Sally McMillan. I'm a faculty member here in the School of Advertising and Public Relations, and I'm going to be moderating this session. But before we get started, those of you who are in the back and standing, there are still plenty of seats up here, so come on, let's get you seated. Come on in. All right. If you want to keep standing, I'm not going to force you. All right. So actually, why don't this panel is, first, I'd like to thank all of these panelists, but particularly the two on this end, because they are folks who stepped in at the last minute when colleagues had family crises. So thank you all. So we're kind of winging it here a little bit, but since we did the introductions from that side to this side, how about we do the presentations the other way? So Asia, I'll get you started, and I do need you to hold the mic while you present.
Oh, I bet it goes right here. Well, maybe.
That was a definite...
that looks like something is missing from there.
That's a problem.
I broke it.
I did it, actually.
very speedy with the fix. I like it. Ooh. Try to go to the beginning. There we go. It's totally ripped out the wall. Still saying source HDMI. I don't know if that makes a difference. Okay, I will.
Okay, we'll make sure you got that part.
Okay. Let's try this again. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Asia May. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at the Indiana State Museum and Historic Sites. So, of course, I'm in Tennessee, so I'm sure you've all been to Indiana, right? Can I see some hands? Anyone? I was going to say, I got my ringer in the front. She's from Indiana. So I'm going to take you through a little bit about the challenges that I faced when I started at the Museum and Historic Sites about 3 years ago, and how we used a multi-channel approach to address a lot of those challenges, and really how our brand strategy kind of comes through on each of those channels. But first, since some of you may not be familiar with the great state of Indiana, the Indiana State Museum and Historic Sites has a few things that makes us special in our competitive set. One, we have 12 locations across the state. That's unique. A lot of museums just have one location. We have a network. Secondly, we have the actual 3D objects. We have 500,000 items in our collection. We have one of the largest Lincoln collections in the world. We have a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation, a copy of the 13th Amendment. We've got some really special stuff. And that's just at the museum. When you actually go out to our locations, you get to walk through used to live and work and make critical decisions in the. And we're all about Indiana arts and culture. There's a lot of history museums, or there's science museums, or children's museums. We do a little bit of everything. When I got there, one of the big problems that we needed to solve is that people didn't really know any of that. They kind of knew the last one, but they would usually say, oh, well, I saw an art exhibit there, or I saw something in your natural history galleries, but they never really associated us with all three. And they kind of never made the distinction that we have the actual stuff in papers or photography, which is what a lot of museums have. They never associated us with the other 11 locations around the state. Another problem that we needed to solve, that the method used for reach was really outdated. We were still doing advertising. We were using a lot of channels that were dying. And our social media numbers were low, and we were really relying on tourism strategies that were really outdated. Travel is a huge thing. It's not so much anymore, so it doesn't really make sense to spend a lot of budget in travel if only 3% of your audience. And last, there was really no measurement to see what marketing was doing other than attendance, which is kind of a tricky beast. Museum where blockbuster exhibits really will drive your attendance. If you have Star Wars one year, your exhibit shoots through the roof. If you have a niche exhibit the next year, your attendance kind of slides. So anyway, so here's how we kind of tackle using a variety of channels. First of all, we decided that we really needed sort of the basics. We needed our and we needed people that were on staff to understand what a brand is. We're articulating the brand to our customers. So we developed a full-blown brand manual that has all sorts of details and a style guide and all sorts of things that our staff uses. But then we also created a brand guide light, so a very easy, simple version that we now train every single staff member on. So whether they're a ticket taker, or they're working at the movie theater, or they're a gallery host, or a curator, everybody's trained on this or not. And some of the things that are in this, I'm not sure if you'll be able to read it or not, but the brand pyramid, which is kind of, it expresses sort of the guts of who we are. Our brand proposition, so the main thing about us, we share Indiana. That's kind of the that is at our brand values, responsibility and stewardship. That makes us our personality, and then those brand drivers are very key strategy that we've been implementing. So next, once we kind of had that foundational work completed, we decided, okay, so now how do we tell our story over and over again so that we associate with those three better differential. So here's an example of that on our Facebook page. The first one, actually this is a cool story. This was found this fall in southern Indiana. It was passed to a family and hasn't been displayed for 188 years. So that was a display that we got to talk about. In the middle, that's actually our Foucault pendulum. So that's talking about science. And then lastly, this is something actually that we've reposted that was an article talking about activities in Indianapolis. And then we also mentioned, you also might do a road trip to one of our historic sites. This is something for you to check out later on our YouTube channel. We did this great happy video to Pharrell's Happy. There's this very interesting museum niche group that does a museum dance-off, which is a fun little project where museums all over the world actually will go and create a video, like a music video, and you get to peek inside their collections and the kind of behind the scenes and see what the staff is like. This was actually very successful for us. We got over 20,000 hits, which is pretty great for our YouTube channel, and it's a fun little video. And what we were able to do is that through this kind of wacky, kind of weird thing, is also continue to reinforce those brand drivers. So you see people at all of our sites, you see actual objects, you see science, arts, and culture. Here's another example of our Instagram account. The first one is a beautiful piece of art we've got going right now called Intersections. You walk into a room and these beautiful shadows are displayed everywhere, and it's just you can't take a bad picture of it, which is great. So that, and then in the middle you've got Lanier Mansion, which is in Madison, Indiana, and then last is our Day of the Dead festival, reinforcing Indiana culture. Here's a look at some of our advertising that we've done that also continues to kind of tell that content story. Again, we continue to reinforce the 12 locations, the actual stuff. So we've got the only covered wooden aqueduct in the United States as part of our canal in Metamora, Indiana, kind of outside of Cincinnati. And then you see on the far side, if anybody's seen the movie Hoosiers, Bobby Plump is the real life guy who made the last shot. So there he is standing with his state championship jacket, his Butler University jersey, and then the hickory jacket from the movie. So again, kind of reinforcing the connections with the artifacts. And then, like I said, we were kind of doing an outdated media buying strategy. It was being done in-house by a staff member who was only able to dedicate probably 10% of our time to it. That's a really hard thing to do, to keep track of, which radio station in the market is really hitting moms with teenagers any given month. There's just a lot of data that you have to sift through to do it really well. We were also doing a lot of print advertising. There was 0 digital advertising. And there was a lot of sort of cookie cutter buying. So whether it was Star Wars or your niche art exhibit, it was the same buying strategy. So you'd hit PBS and some print publications and maybe some group travel guides. And that just wasn't working very well. And every exhibit, whether it was a huge attendance driver bringing in lots of revenue or a small one that we knew would bring in no revenue but still felt like it was mission driven to do, they were both given kind of the same ad budget, and that's not a great way to spend your dollars. So now we're up to about 90% digital advertising. That's probably where we'll stay. There are still things like the things you get in your hotel room that tell you kind of a guide to the city. That's print that we still feel like is worth being in, but overwhelmingly now we are digital advertising. Each exhibit or event that we're advertising has its own targeted strategy. So for example, we had an exhibit called Rad Science last year that was all about the physics of skateboarding. It was more fun than maybe that sounds. And so we targeted moms with teens, and then we also targeted skateboarders. So for example, if you were at a skate park in Indianapolis, you would be served a digital ad on your smartphone. And so we really have moved a lot towards that. We also hired an agency who's very well versed in cultural attractions in Indianapolis and has done a great job for us. And they know all of those things, both with the data, but also kind of they have a gut instinct about it because they've been doing it so long. And now only the exhibits or events that we know will bring in revenue are given significant ad budget. We use earned and social media for the others. And the next thing we did was that really a focus on social media. Like I said, when I got there was not a lot of digital advertising or digital work that was being done, much less social. And so we devoted a full-time staff person to growing and nurturing our social channels. That's happened in the last year, and we've really seen it just pay dividends. We've invested advertising dollars to provide social ads, boosts, and other targeted strategies. Something that was kind of untapped, we have an excellent creative team on our staff, and they were really only being used to create print collateral or traditional print advertising. And so now we use them to create things for our social channels as well, which is great because it adds a great visual appeal, but it also makes sure that everything is in brand and that it looks consistent. And then lastly, empowering every staff member to become what we call a social journalist. We've got 12 locations across the state. We've got activities going on 7 days a week. We can't be everywhere at all times, but really neat moments happen, and we want to make sure they're captured. So we've given every person on staff knows our social media coordinator's cell phone. They can text her a picture. They can text her, oh, I overheard this great story, and we can create something on Facebook with a picture with it. And they can kind of create content for us, which has been really helpful. And then something else that's kind of foundational but has been instrumental, I think, is creating a consistent and compelling look for us to use on all mediums, including social. Our new brand guide that I mentioned gave guidelines for how to use a logo, what our color palette is, what patterns to use. This is the lovely basket weave pattern that you're experiencing right now. What our photography looks like. And then we also hired somebody who was really excellent to do some new photography for us. The last run of photos for all the 12 locations were about a decade old, and you think of how technology has advanced and how digital cameras have advanced. It really makes a huge difference. So we felt it was worth the investment. And there's a guy in West Lafayette, Indiana, who does stuff for ESPN and Sports Illustrated, and kind of was a little bit sick of covering the Super Bowl. And so wanted some, and is kind of a history nerd, and so I was able to talk him into coming out and taking some photography for us. So here's, since this is all visual storytelling, I thought I'd show some before and after, because I think it's pretty significant, the difference. This is Angel Mounds. This is a ancient Native American site in near Evansville, Indiana. It was founded around the time paper was created in 150 AD. It's really old. And it's these huge mound structures where a city was, essentially, where people lived and worked and celebrated. But it is hard to photograph, and so you often get things like this. But Andy was able to completely reframe it and give it some power and some sense of depth. This is Culbertson Mansion, which is in New Albany, Indiana, just across the river from Louisville. Culbertson, I would say it's the Sistine Chapel of Indiana. Every room has these amazing, intricate, painted ceilings that are all hand done, and they're just really remarkable. But this kind of doesn't do it justice. But here's a picture of one of the painters who's restoring one of the rooms and showing kind of the vibrancy, because the colors are really, really crazy bright. It's not kind of a muted, boring thing. It's a very interesting thing. Here's a look at Whitewater Canal. And there's a picture that we took this last summer on a very awful rainy day. But it was actually wonderful because it created this kind of moodiness to it and a lot of depth that this just didn't have. It kind of reads flat. And also, there are people in these pictures. People come to our places where we had a lot of just kind of building shots. So we wanted to encourage people to know that they also can come. And then lastly, we wanted to make sure that we were measuring the things that were significant and that could tell us how to modify our own strategy. So now we do a monthly marketing dashboard that goes out to members of the leadership team that tracks our website, our social, our TripAdvisor and Yelp reviews, our attendance, our digital advertising, our earned media, partly to promote transparency of what we're doing, to make sure that people know that we're not hiding something or doing some sort of weird magic juju in the marketing department, but that they can see it correlates to attendance when our website hits go through the ceiling. But also to promote some ownership, that they can see the activities. If they submitted a post and they see a huge spike in the Facebook reach, they know that kind of I did that, and that's a great thing to get across the system. So some of our results. Our social media follower, it's not nearly as high as yours, by the way. This is pretty good for us. Our social media followers have increased 5 times to previous levels since I got there, which has been pretty significant. And we've only had a full-time dedicated staff really since last summer. So we're continuing to see that spike. Our web hits are up 40% year over year. Since that's the major indicator of whether somebody's going to come visit us, that's a huge thing for us. Our attendance is up. We actually had the best February since 2010 this last February, and we didn't have a single exhibit that was open. That's pretty significant. In February 2010, they had Lord of the Rings. So we'll take that. Our earned media is up. Partly, I think that's because we have journalists that follow us on social. And so even if we're not necessarily hard pitching them, they know that kind of what's going on, and they'll call us as the experts. So if they're doing a story on a political election and they want to know what Abraham Lincoln did, he was during his time in Indiana. He grew up there, by the way. They'll call us because they know, oh yeah, I kind of saw a Lincoln story. I'll call them and they can tell us about it. So that's a great thing. And then overall, I think just a more consistent brand experience with us, whether you're visiting or whether you're visiting us online or even calling our front desk. Hopefully that you get a more consistent thing overall. That's all I got.
All right, so we're going to hold questions till the end, and so that each of our presenters has plenty of time to talk. And I'm going to step carefully over the cords here and get set up here for Abby. Let's see, which one is you? This one? Excellent. All right, step over the cords. No heels caught on the cords. All right.
Okay, hold on. Chip and ginger. Our bread and butter. So my name is Abby McCollum. I am the director of convergence and social media for Scripps Network's home category and travel channel. So that means I am in charge of convergence, which means the TV and talent content on hgtv.com, DIYnetwork.com, greatamericancountry.com, and travelchannel.com. And then I am also in charge of the team that runs the social media accounts for all of those brands as well. So it's a little bit busy and crazy. But a lot of my team and the editorial team on all of those brands as well work to tell our stories through visual storytelling. And luckily, we have a lot of great imagery and video to do that, and a lot of good-looking people like these guys. So I kind of focused a little bit more on HGTV just because that's where my background is. I started at HGTV, and then I've picked up the rest of the brands in the last few months. But I'm going to start focusing on HGTV today. So how does HGTV tell our stories visually? We do it using photo galleries and articles on hgtv.com with trendy, fun blog posts, and I'm going to go through all of these a little bit more in depth. Videos on HGTV and our social media networks, social promotion of editorial content, and unique social content and events. And there's more than this too, but these are the ones I wanted to focus on. So we are very lucky to have tons of beautiful content. We have TV shows that air all the time that we have worked with production companies and photographers to get what we call brand photography. So when Chip and Joanna are doing the reveal on a house, we have a photographer from Getty who's out there taking pictures to match the before pictures that we had taken before the makeover started. And then we can put those on our website and tell a very robust story of the before and afters of the different houses that we showcase on the website. Same thing with some of our DIY shows. We can focus on a lot of the projects that they do with the photography that we have that's taken on set. And then with a lot of our travel channel shows, the photography is insane because we're traveling all over the world with those shows. So we've got a lot of gorgeous photography. We also have, I can't remember, should I go to the next slide? Yeah. We also have a lot of great editorial people on our staffs, and we also work with a lot of great freelance bloggers to create tons of content that goes on the website and on our blog. So our blog is where we kind of focus a little bit more on our trendy, timely pieces. So for example, I'll use this as an example. So the Netflix and chill hashtag that was around a little while ago, there was one that we started noticing that people were kind of, if you maybe advance to the next step in your relationship, you might HGTV and chill. And so that's where we took advantage of social media and a lot of people that were posting about that. And so we searched that hashtag, found a lot of great people that were posting about it themselves, and we let them create the story for us. So we embedded those posts from Twitter, from Instagram, and then we created a timely piece that was right on trend with Netflix and chill, and we told people that they should HGTV and chill, and that they were still cool if they did that. We also are taking advantage of some headlining news things for us. For example, some colors that are big, we focus on those. So like right now, gray is a big spring colors, so we have some bedroom stories and decorating stories to go along with some neutral colors. We also have found that our audience on the websites like to drink a lot, and so we focus a lot on entertaining and drink recipes. So when we can take beautiful pictures of a drink that has that kind of appeal to it, we can tell the story better than just a plain recipe that might appear online. Same with this little carrot thing over here, that we use that to promote a recipe for Easter. It's actually a Rice Krispie treat that you dip in like white chocolate that's got some colored on it. So I just promote this stuff. I'm not the one that actually creates it, but I think that our people that do create it are pretty genius. And again, we have DIY projects like this one, which is taking old canisters, putting magnets on the back, and then using them as an herb garden on your refrigerator. So that's another way that we're using a lot of our imagery to take what could be a potentially kind of boring piece of content and stepping it up and making people take notice of it with our photography. Oops, I think I went one too far. How do you go back on PowerPoint? Hold on, I'm gonna go back a slide. No, I was right, never mind. Just kidding. Okay, that was my next slide. Okay, in addition to gorgeous photography that we have, we are a bunch of TV networks, so we have a lot of tapes of a lot of different hours of TV. In addition to that, we also have a lot of original video that we create for all of our websites, and so we can tell the story beyond just imagery with photos, we can tell with video. So for example, this is one of the videos that we produced. Actually, this is an entire package that we produced just for the website. So it didn't actually air on TV at all. It was only for the website. We called it our holiday house. We actually have one for spring. We actually have one for the holidays. And we take a house. This one is actually in Atlanta. And we just decorate it. So as opposed to just doing, here's a one-off story for how to decorate for the holidays, we take a whole house and we decorate it. So this is an example. I don't know if it's actually going to play. So I'm not a PowerPoint aficionado, and it said to just click to play, and it's not going to. Anyway, this is a video that shows, I think I did it wrong. Anyway, this is a video that just shows a tour of this house, but I just wanted to use this as an example of video that we have on our website, which is a little bit longer and more in depth. This is probably about a minute or so, which back in the day, 4 years ago, when I started working in HGTV, we would create videos that were 3 to 5 minutes in length. And when our video producers would ask us how long to make something, that's what we would tell them. Now 3 to 5 minutes seems like we're asking someone to watch like a 12-hour-long documentary. It's insane how fast things have changed with video consumption, and that is where a huge focus of our entire company is over for the next year. So this is a piece of content that we would produce for the website. It's a little bit longer. It's about a minute or two. So then this is an example of Okay, this one. This is a video that we produced just for social. So now we're taking our content in a completely different way. As opposed to creating content for TV and then creating content just for the website, now we're creating content just for social. So this is actually a series of videos that we have called HGTV Happy. We decided to just focus on some videos and some moments and some content that make people happy. We've done super short ones that are 10 seconds long that showed a baby in a bathtub or in playing in the bubbles. We've done some of dogs in costumes. We've done some super in-depth ones that show how to make DIY recipes and different food things. We did one last week where it was, can you shake this? And we literally put potato chips and chocolate and something else into a blender and decided if the milkshake would taste good. This is our most successful one that we've done so far. It's had 13 million views, and it got posted on January 6th. You take pieces of paper, you put them in a blender, you get them wet, you put seeds in them, you put them in a little shape, and then you throw them on the ground, and you can have plants show up in a few weeks. This actually organically got 13 million page views. We didn't do anything to boost this. I was actually shocked when I heard that. I went to our paid people and said, how much money did you guys put behind this? And they said, we didn't put any, this actually just happened. So we have 3 million fans on our Facebook page, and this got 13 million views. So the reach that it got beyond just our own fans was pretty huge. People were sharing it. It got, I should know these numbers off the top of my head, but I don't. It got thousands of comments. It got thousands of shares. Half the comments were us telling us we were wasting paper. Half of them were us telling us it was the best idea they'd ever seen. We kind of take all of our comments on social with a grain of salt because we figure a lot of people that take the time to comment aren't the nicest people on the internet. And a lot of people that think it's a really great idea just tend to hit like. So we take a lot of our stuff that we put on social with a grain of salt. But that's where our big focus for the year is social videos and creating our visual storytelling message there. We have to take all of our ideas and condense them even more. We're realizing that videos presented in a square format tend to work better. Videos that are about 15 seconds to 30 seconds tend to work better. Videos that don't have words with them, so it's not someone telling a story, it's a lot of like, we call them hands and pans, where the camera is panning over your hands or just panning across the scene, or just telling you what to do with words on screen, tend to do well also. A large majority of our audience consumes the content on mobile, and so people are just scrolling through their phones, and they need to be able to stop and see something that grabs their attention, like the big words DIY seed bombs. This is the first thing you see when you're scrolling through it. The video starts playing, and then you get hooked, hopefully. 13 million people viewed it, so hopefully they did. This is where we're definitely driving a lot of our views, which is good for me because my team is very busy working on a lot of content to help support this. So what we'll do, for example, we just had a series come out on the website called Lazy Entertainer. It's a bunch of videos and photo galleries that we got from a video shoot that we did, showing people how to have brunch and have dinner parties and entertain their people really easily on a budget. When we had that shoot, we got flat content, so we could create photo galleries. We got longer DIY videos, so we could show all the steps on how to do it. And then we also cut those down into social videos. So that's the 3 ways we're telling our social story, or telling our content stories these days, on the website, on social, and through longer form video on our site. I talk fast and I have no concept of how much I've been talking, so if I'm going over, just tell me. We also, this is where my big focus is that we promote our content very visually on all of our sites, all of our social network sites. So this is 3 different ways that we present stuff on Instagram that we've done in the last week. So we had a huge Easter package that had adorable stuff that I put out the night before, saying, hey, if you forgot to get stuff for Easter, here's all the free downloads that you can get on our site. So we were trying to hit the people that had procrastinated like I would have and not done anything, and we're like, oh crap, I need to do something for tomorrow morning. That's all the stuff they could have printed out at their house that night. So we tried to grab them. And that's an example of posting at different times. We've also been playing with that. Not necessarily just posting during the day. We know that people scroll through their phones 24 hours a day, so we're trying to post things at off-hour times, 10 o'clock, midnight, 3 a.m., just to see what hits. We don't really know. This is a repost from one of our talent from the show Flip or Flop. We also take advantage of our talent being their own brand ambassadors and using the content that they're putting out there, because I don't have the money to send a photographer out every single time. They might just go play t-ball in a park, but they're going to take their own picture, and that, to me, that's content. So we're also trying to tell the story with whatever content we can find as cheaply and easily as we can. So again, this is another example of, it's actually brand photography that Joanna Gaines from Fixer Upper, that she put on her own Instagram that I then reposted. So we're taking advantage of our own imagery that they're posting that we're reposting. It's a fun reposting game. Oh, and then we're also doing a lot of social events. This one is one that took a lot of people and a little bit of planning to do, but we actually had a Facebook Live cookie party right before Christmas. It was about an hour long, and we literally decorated a bunch of cookies, made gingerbread houses, all of this stuff completely live on Facebook. And it was terrifying to be completely live like that and just go and have everything work well, and it worked incredibly well. We did a whole day live with Food Network. They were in New York, we were in Knoxville, and we went back and forth with our live events. We're planning on doing a lot more of these. We have one coming up from the CMA Fest that HGTV helps co-sponsor. We're also just going to try and do them on like Tuesday afternoons when our editors are all together brainstorming and stuff. So we're going to be playing a lot more with these. I've been seeing a lot of brands do this. I'd actually like to get y'all's feedback later on when we ask questions to see if people think that live events are where it's at going forward. But this is one of the ways that HGTV is playing with this. So we're not on Snapchat yet, but this is our like live thing that we're trying to do. So let's see, what else do I have? These are some social media trends that we're just kind of noticing a lot. Like I said, a lot of eyes are on video. This is from another presentation I did, so I'm kind of trying to remember what I put up here. Facebook is where we're focusing a lot of our time for our video because that's where all the numbers are. We had 50 million video views all last year, and this year alone we've had 56 million so far. So video this year is blowing up on Facebook. The time is also ripe for Instagram, even though they're making everyone mad in the last few days with their new whatever they're going to do. And then we're also realizing that, kind of like Asia said, that we have talent and employee and brand ambassadors throughout our entire company and our talent as well. So we're trying to take advantage of that and encouraging people to share content with us as they're at events, as they're on set, as they're living the brand for us. What else did I include in here? This is just an example of some of how our top posts are not exactly the pictures that we always would think would work. They're pictures of the talent, living it in the moment with the different people on set, showing the afters. Sometimes we try and busy it up a little bit using some of the graphics that are down below, more of a collage, and sometimes we just put a single picture out, and sometimes we find the single picture works a lot better. So when we try and make the message simpler, it works better too. This goes back to that one of the most successful social day in HGTV history. We did a live event on New Year's Day where we put out tweets throughout the entire day and they run on screen. So while we have a live rose parade in the morning, and then after that we're pulling tweets that people are putting out and putting them on screen. We do it every New Year's Day. It's kind of nerve-wracking because it's like we have to have a certain number of tweets go on screen for the next segment, and we have to find those. And so if no one's tweeting, we don't have anything to put up. So luckily, people have always tweeted, but it's a little bit stressful to be like, what if no one tweets today? They always have. So this is another example of how we take content further. We try and take our talent. For example, Christina from Flip or Flop had a baby, so she did a whole series of I'm about to have a baby, Flip or Flop baby diaries for us. We take content from our TV shows. One was Brother versus Brother, and we created Which Kitchen Do You Love type content. So this is how we're taking content from TV and using it to tell a visual story on the website. Again, people really like our talent, especially when they're funny and goofy. For a long time, this one of Chip and Jo where she's wearing a hat because they're at the Kentucky Derby was our most popular picture. And this is my contact information if anyone ever has any questions or wants to follow me or tweet at me. Hopefully that was good.
That was excellent. Thank you, Abby. All right, so we will carefully step over the cords and get Patrick set up here. Is this you?
Yeah.
I'll let you take it from there.
Okay.
And when you start your video, I'm going to do this.
Okay. I put a lot of video in mine. Just want to be that cool teacher that comes in and just wheels into a TV screen and you guys just take it away. But her videos didn't work, so that terrifies me. Yeah, so social story time. Took a picture from the Never Ending Story 2, which is the most ironic movie title of all time. And yeah, social media is never ending, it never stops. So figured it was aptly to do that, and I made that in Photoshop myself. So cool, yeah. So there's a lot of things that correlate very well with just storytelling in general and social media. Obviously, from the beginning of time, stories have been told from human to human, and that is social. Is whether you're a brand or you're a talent or you're a company or anything else, there's a human element where you're communicating to other humans via social, because that's literally the meaning of social. And it's all about bringing people together in communities and keeping them engaged and then fostering that community. And we found out that a lot of the times you can have cool stuff and you can have it put out, but if you're not saying it correctly, then no one's going to care. So 'cause ultimately what defines your story and how successful it is your customers. And so we at the Thomas Group kind of have that turn into a little bit of a science where we want to study our customers, potential customers, look-alike customers, identify kind of what they're doing and their patterns, and kind of hold those concepts as close to our heart as possible. And hopefully that turns into revenue, which is the best byproduct of storytelling and ultimately what we're judged by. So hopefully this video plays. It might do it. Dang it. Well, that's disappointing because that's a really cool video. I know, it's doing everything but it should. Huh. I'm going to see if it saves it. Well, that sucks. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm sorry. No, I'll go ahead and talk about Orange Theory really quickly. It's one of our newer clients of the agency. In case you don't know anything about Orange Theory, they just opened up one in Knoxville. And it's a group fitness facility. It's their studios, and they're running, there's about 300 across the country, and it's growing as fast as possible. And what they essentially spread on was just word of mouth on social. So they didn't have any TV budget, any radio budget, any print budget, and they simply used their brand advocates as storytellers. It simply started as word of mouth. Hey, I'm going to Orange Theory. You should check it out. And it was almost like this secret club that no one really knew about, but if you knew about it, you were kind of in. And so what Orange Theory did was to start entire social campaigns and put that out. So for example, it's just setting them up for success. So what we do is kind of foster a community of those storytellers and putting them in a position to tell their story of their successes, because that's what ultimately drives our business, is befores and afters. So, and then kind of setting them up for why they do that and why they're working out every single day and why they're sitting there on a rowing machine having that story to tell. So we kind of set up the campaign called What Do You Burn For? And what that was just setting people up to tell why they're working out and why they wanted to get results, whether they're sitting there running on a treadmill saying, I'm doing this for my kids, or I'm doing this so I can have a huge glass of wine later and sit in the bathtub and not feel bad about myself. And so that's what we did. We set up a whole campaign for that, and everything that we do echoes through that. So it really sucks that I can't show you the video, but you guys can look at it online. Oh, shoot. Okay. That's really disappointing. Screen. All right, well, the rest of these are videos, so we'll see. Another one of the stories is, which sucks because this is a video, is using other influencers to tell your stories as well. So what we want to do, the easiest thing to do is use influencers to tell stories, simply because it means less work on us, and it allows people to identify with those people more easier than it would with a brand. So one of our best clients creatively is Warsteiner, which is a German beer import. And what they do, it's hard to relate necessarily because they're Germany and they come in and, you know what might be easier too, if I just pull up these videos myself. Because these points are going to be lost. Will it play video up here if I just do it on the...
It should. You can bring it up on YouTube or wherever you've got it.
That's what I'm going to do. Sorry about this, everybody. This is some bad storytelling up here. You're all 21, right? So Warsteiner has a lot of stories to tell. One, that they're a 9th family generation owned company. So that's 250 some years of brewing beer and brewing it only one way, and that's kind of a unique proposition for us. So there's only 3 ingredients that's been the same way for 200 some years. And we try to echo that with everything we do, whether it's sustainability or sponsoring certain people. If this plays, I'll be so excited. Can you turn on the volume, please?
So I should have volume. No. Oh, All right, we're back. Now, we just need volume.
Are they not plugged in? Just plug in that one and this one now, since we're on this set of speakers. Is that any better?
All right, it's playing. Before I start, I will preface this by saying we had this big beer pouring competition with Warsteiner. One of our strategies was hearing the bartender and showing that they're like the main advocate for people trying certain beers. Like you walk up to a bar, it's like, you know, what's good, and they're going to be the expert opinion on that. So we had a whole contest that allowed them to come in and show off their particular beer pouring skills, because there's a certain way to pour a Warsteiner, just like there is a certain way to pour Guinness or any other type of specific beer. So we had a huge beer pouring competition in New York City, and I got to go, and we found the host of this thing, which was named Charles Perry, and we put him as a host doing the beer pouring, like live by live, everything, and he's his own like songwriter stuff. We found him like off this album that he was doing some Christmas thing with God, who's that great David something. He's some big music producer, and he's putting this Christmas album together with like Ariana Grande and Jason Derulo and this guy named Charles Perry, which we had no idea who he was. And so his kind of inspirations of family and togetherness and doing it right, which is the Warsteiner slogan, kind of melded perfectly for some reason. So we kind of put a little story together up while we were up there that kind of echoed what we want to talk about.
Thank you. I think it's important for artists to be themselves, walk in the imminence of you. In this cold, 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 cold world, I'm just a stranger. The blues side of me and then the rock and roll, it started through my family. They were rockers, so I would sneak my dad's Woodstock records. We weren't allowed to play that stuff, so when he'd go prep me, I would sneak and put on the records. Then one day I got caught playing the records singing. He was like, "You can sing like this?" The Doors, Queen, Chicago, Earth, Wind and Fire. It's important to take the things that I've learned back then and apply it now. This is my commitment to my assignment. My assignment as the soul superhero is to lead the audience with an experience. Sometimes you gotta take the long way to get there, but when you get there, you have staying power. I think what Warstein is doing is so important through generations. It's important to keep it in the family, because the family is where it all begins. It's your beginning, your middle, and your end. Believe
it or not, that interview lasted like hours. You talk forever. Cool. So yeah. So in that case, it's kind of like serendipitous that you kind of run into these stories, and then all of a sudden now we're kind of taking this very like musical direction with Warsteiner, because they were kind of EDM, and now they're exploring other musical styles to kind of sponsor and get used to. So now these people's stories are becoming part of our story, which is kind of cool. More videos. For Weigels, for instance, is one of the accounts that I work on. I'm sure you've seen tons of them around Knoxville. It's kind of their big thing. But believe it or not, they started as a dairy farm, and they have all their own fresh ingredients all the time. So their big push now is going to be towards simply just fresh, because their own dairy, their own bakery. They make everything kind of in store, the products that they make. And they even have like the Weigels Kitchen. I don't know if you guys have seen the ones on West Hills. That's like made to order food, and it's weird to like think that from a convenience store. But it's something that's part of their storyline of heritage of fresh that they're not going to be able to get away from, but they can kind of hang their hat on. So we're kind of like setting up Weigels to tell the story about how it works. So what this video is, it's not that as interesting as that one, but it's just highlighting different dairy farms, because every single ounce of milk from Weigels comes from an East Tennessee cow. And so we wanted to lift that up. And so we went around and shot a bunch of the dairy farmers where those milk came from, and we lifted it up on social, and it got hundreds and hundreds of shares, which was crazy for Weigels. So that was exciting. Another one of the accounts I work on is McDonald's. And I like to think that your personality is part of your story too. And so basically McDonald's works in co-ops. And so they have their big agency that you would just type in at McDonald's, which is run by an agency in Chicago, I think called Maroc. But what they do is they split up each individual stores and lump them into like East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, Charleston, South Carolina, certain parts of Illinois. And that what they do primarily for that is keeping their Twitter accounts separate to tweet out certain deals. So obviously a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit in East Tennessee is going to cost different than one in California. So these kind of things, these accounts try to showcase that. So when I got in, it was simply, there was a picture of a hamburger, and then there was a little sentence that said, buy this for, $3 or something. And I kind of came in and kind of wanted to give them more of a voice and more of a way to get their experience out there. So I try to tell little mini stories within each single tweet. Some of them are silly, as you can see, but what I do is I write a bunch of these and just send them to corporate every week, because believe it or not, McDonald's is very legalistic in how they do it. So I always come back with a huge calendar full of like red marks saying, you can't say this. And I said, well, I sure would like to. And so that's what I do. And if I can get people to just kind of take themselves out of Twitter for a second, like they're looking at an ad, if they're just like, they can get semblance of like being in a different story for like 1 second, then I've won. So hopefully that's in the back of their head. Also, a big thing that we put a lot of emphasis on at the Thomas Group is making content that is share-worthy. And that's different for each individual audience of what they deem to be shared. So obviously, you can get someone to like your content, but we kind of want to see what's like the sentiment behind a like. Is it because they have an affinity towards your brand, they're just going to like it anyways? Do they have someone that works there that they know they're going to support? Or is it simply something that's a part of them? So we want people to help share our stories, because once you do that, you're kind of tapping into a very powerful word of mouth endorsement, because that's how stories were shared originally, and that's how they're always going to be shared, is your opinions of your peers and the people that value your brand is going to be a much higher importance than anything we can just force out in front of them. So I kind of use it as science as why people share. So it's to bring valuable, entertaining content to one another, whether it's something that's saying, this has made me think of you, or this is important to me, or most importantly is to define themselves to others. So if you share something, is it because you think you're funny and you want other people to think you're funny as well, or do you want to stay informed? Are you a political person? Do you want to share these articles because you want people to think that you're very politically minded or opinionated, or simply because you care? And that can go a bunch of different ways. So what we try to do, and prime example of this is Farmer Charlie. So believe it or not, I am Farmer Charlie for all intents and purposes. There is someone who looks like Farmer Charlie and plays him, but I'm Farmer Charlie every single day. So I know him a little bit more than he knows himself, probably. So what we do for Farmer Charlie is kind of create a community of people who are very, very value-minded. He's the very embodiment of Farm Bureau insurance. And so he doesn't sell insurance, he's just the person that they want showcasing their brand. And he's everything that involves with it, whether it's regionality, since the insurance is only available in Tennessee, wisdom, everything else. And what we like to think is that people kind of attribute their value system to Charlie, and they want to meet Charlie at where he is. People view him very up here, since he's this wise farmer who knows all the answers to everything. They're on here, and so if we can kind of meet in the middle as far as values, and we can make this perfect values match, and that's when people share. That's when people see it. So if Charlie has an opinion or something that he wants to say, then we can kind of lower that level to someone else can reach up to and be like, that's me. This is exactly what I'm doing, and then they share. So this is some of the highest sharing content we've ever made. Some of these are different than other, but he only has a fan base of around 64,000 right now, and this is all organic. So his audience is extremely engaged, and to be only in Tennessee is quite phenomenal. And some of these things that you can, these weren't even like planned. I mean, I thought they were good because I wrote them, but when I stuck them out, it really kind of took a hold, especially the Goat Tower one. That was just one I was like, that's really weird. I'm going to see if people think that is weird. And so it gets reached by like 10 million people because everyone else thought the same thing, apparently. And we're kind of shifting content that's locally made, that we can kind of, not locally made, but that's very ownable and branded, like the one on the right, kind of the stuff that we can kind of, our audience can kind of see and identify with. But it's not all just that. We're constantly optimizing our content, especially in social media. And so at any point, you can jump in on any of this circle. Obviously, there's a new business venture. You start at the very beginning, and you wind your way through. But for a lot of these things, I just jump in the middle of where the circle's at. So that shows straight through consumer insights, strategy behind what you're going to say, what are you going to say exactly, and who you're going to say it to, and then it just becomes this never-ending cycle of optimization. And a good example of that is what we did with Farmer Charlie. You don't need to see the videos for this one, actually. It's not as important. But initially, content that was seated outside the commercials was just Farmer Charlie sitting there with a card saying something about something, and it was just, as long as he was on the screen, we thought it would be good enough for people to share and like think well of him. And it was okay, but we realized that after like a couple of those, people got really tired of it. And you can put him in front of a bunch of people else that you want, but if he's not saying anything interesting, then no one's going to care. So we did a lot of kind of A/B testing, which means we try something different and change one variable until we got something that was a little bit better. And we failed a lot, so there's a lot of videos that we put out there that weren't very good and that ended up maybe just deleting. But that's okay. You kind of find what works as long as you don't lose yourself and lose your brand in the process. So what this was is simply Charlie like on a bike reading from a card about some bicycle organization that was really boring. And for this next one was providing people value, which is ultimately what we want to do from any point of social, is what's in it for me? Why am I going to like this page? Because in my case, for a lot of things, I have liked as many pages I'm going to like I'm good, this is what I want to see every day. And if we can get, put a little money behind it or get someone that's kind of an influencer to you to share it, then we think that's totally worth it. So this video is simply is Charlie doing something in a video, showing someone how to do something, and it was like one of those like clamshell packages that's like the little plastic thing that they put like weird batteries and stuff in. And actually, like you use a can opener and open it and without like cutting your hand off. I mean, that was one of our best organic videos to date. So happy about that. And then there's me. It's kind of the last thing is living in the moment kind of means two things. One is real time, but I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about real time marketing anyways. But it's just knowing how people tell stories now, and whether that's using live video as a way to do it, just considering how you share your story today. The best example I like to use is kind of how I used to use Facebook to kind of share who I was this big conglomerate of pictures and videos, and said all this content, all these pictures make up who I am. And if you go back and look, like all of this is who I am. The way we kind of share content now and kind of how each social channel is kind of working, like even with Snapchat or Periscope, is where I am right now and what I'm doing is who I am. So it lasts 10 seconds, 24 hours, and you totally forget about it. So I would leave you with that is the most important story is not necessarily where you've been, but what you're doing right now and what you're going to do with that going forward. So that's all I had. Sorry, at least you got to see one video. So.
Thank you, Patrick. Step carefully over the cords. And let's go ahead and open it up and see if there's any questions from the students. If not right away, I've got a question for the panel, but let's see. Any students? Okay.
So, when Miss Asia was talking, the way that you described how your guys' approach to social media, where you just got one person who's full-time committed to your brand and all the things that matter, and I imagine that person gets to really connect with your brand specifically and knows everything that's going on and can make really great content. And in my head, I was thinking, maybe that's the direction that I would want to go, is connecting to that one brand and owning it. But then when Patrick started talking about how, he's got all these really great brands in his hand that he's involved in, I guess would you ever want to flip flop from both of your positions? Would you want to do would you ever want to have more, and would you ever want to commit to one?
Okay, so it's an interesting question. We actually have 3 representatives that I think actually, because we do have the spectrum, right? So we have the media, we have the agency, and we have the brand. So why don't each of you sort of tackle that? Do you like what you're doing? Would you be considered doing one of the other segments within the market?
Sure. I kind of like feeling like I know our brand really well, but also knowing that I can still be surprised by it, especially since we have 12 locations across the state. I mean, I'm not in Evansville very often, and so I can find out something new that I didn't know about the brand. But at the same time, I feel entirely comfortable knowing the personality of our brand and kind of how that's displayed through our storytelling. So I kind of like where I'm at.
Patrick, why don't you take the next one?
Yeah, I would love to give more attention to certain things. 'Cause I think a lot of times agency life is very fast, and I see some of the results you guys have gotten because obviously you've nailed down the look. Awesome too, you've nailed down that voice, and you're constantly kind of evolving that to certain shapes. And I will admit that I do like what I do just because every day is so different. I get to put on different hats every day. So one day I'm speaking in McDonald's language, or I'm answering back a very thoughtful message from a concerned person about Orange Theory. It's all about kind of identifying that voice, I guess. But I don't know. I think smaller agency, it's very fun and it's very different because I walk in, I have no idea what's going to happen that day, as opposed to these things need to get done. So there's certain things that I would trade. I would definitely love to get more involved and really dig into a brand, but I don't think I'd trade getting to bounce around a little bit.
Do you switch out of brands a lot, or do you stick with the same ones?
The only one that I've really stuck with this entire time was McDonald's and Farmer Charlie since I've started. Everything else is fluctuated in and out. As people move, I kind of hand off things that I don't necessarily want to work on, and let other people come in and say hey, we need to do someone. We need someone to handle National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, this whole Twitter campaign. I'm like, that's different. I've never done that before. Let me see if I can do it. So that's fun, and it just adds to my portfolio, and hopefully I can speak to a lot of other cool things going forward. So if that answers your question. Sorry.
And then I get to focus, I kind of get the same thing where every day is a little bit different, and I focus on so many different parts of different brands, because I kind of look at each television show that exists within each network as kind of a brand in its own self. So we have dozens of TV shows on every single network, so I have to think of Fixer Upper is a completely different audience than something over here. So I'm looking at different audiences all the time. DIY is different than HGTV. Travel Channel is different than HGTV also. So I'm looking at different audience members and reaching in a different voice to different people. So it does kind of keep it you learn the brand's messaging very well because you're so focused on the same 4 brands all the time. But then within it, you get to talk in a lot of different languages too. So that part's fun.
My question is for Aja, is it? Aja? Okay. When it comes to the museum, is everything that all the museums have online, or do you take an attitude of teasing the public in order to get them to come in? Because I know a lot of museums, they don't want to put everything online because otherwise they don't have any attendance.
Yes and no. Our Lincoln collection is all online because that's used by a lot of scholars and researchers. I think we will actually move towards getting our collection digitized, but quite frankly, it will probably never be the entire collection. 500,000 items would take forever with our staff. So it would probably be like the top 40 or 50,000, but that's still quite an undertaking. That's something in our strategic plan goals actually by 2018 to do that. Because I kind of take the sense of, everybody in this room's seen a picture of the Mona Lisa. It's still crowded when you go to see the Mona Lisa. People want that tangible experience of, I saw this in real life. It's different seeing it online, so I think it's still worth it.
We actually only have about 3 minutes left, and I know some students have to get to another class. So let's close with a question that I'll ask each of you to weigh in on. What is the one most important thing that you look for when you're hiring an entry-level student employee?
I'd look for somebody with a point of view that has a vision for the position that they want to carry out. I don't want somebody that it's knocking on my door every 5 minutes and asking, can I? I want somebody a little bit that begs forgiveness instead of asks permission. So that's my number one thing.
I agree with that too, taking ownership of what you're doing. And also, you're going to do some things that no one starts out at the top. You're going to start doing jobs that aren't exactly what you wanted to do on day one, but you're going to have to do that kind of stuff to get to where you're going. It's a ladder. So the type of people that walk in and are willing to kind of be like, oh, that, you need me to do that? Done, I'll do it. I do things every day that aren't necessarily what I would want to do, but it has to get done, so it gets done. The type of person that walks in and says, I will do whatever you want me to do. My goal here is to be successful. You tell me an assignment and I will get it done, works great for me. But also doesn't need me to tell them exactly what to do.
Yeah, I've hired like a lot of people recently, which is good. But I think there's 3 things really quickly. Is one is passionate, is like really this is what you want to do, not necessarily for your whole life, but what you want to do right now. I've seen people just come in and just kind of like drawl through an interview, and I was like, do you not even like care that you're here? Like, but someone who's kind of excited and is like, what about this or like this? How do you guys do with like Snapchat? I'm like, oh yeah, well we don't do Snapchat for that, but if you did, if you came here, you could do that. We'll let you do that. Being able to write is huge. I think that's I get yes. Listen, seriously. Whether it's 140 characters or a blog post, if you can come in with samples and kind of identify the different kind of voices, it doesn't even matter if you're writing. We had some girl who started writing for like refrigeration, like social media stuff, and she came in and like we just handed her like a bunch of stuff for like hospitals and like bean plant stuff. It was all random things, but she adapted very well because her writing style was it was clean, it was grammatical, it was and then you can quickly get a hold of a brand voice that way. And then be proactive. Go out, look for these jobs. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was informational interviews. I don't know if you guys have ever done any of those, but seriously, if you go out and you email presidents of companies that you want to work for, they will email you back and they will set you up with someone. I talked with countless people from, I went to Atlanta, I talked with like the creative president of like JWT and BBDO, and they're just like, yeah, like you can just do an interview while you're here, and they're like, yeah, it'd be great. And then you can take that to other interviews, like, well, I was talking to the president of JWT the other day, he said this. What do you think about that? It'll blow people's minds. So wherever you're at, on vacation, anywhere, just there's an agency or any other company you want to work at, just ask. The worst they can say is no. So
that's true, because I'm going through a hiring process right now, and it is a lot of work to hire someone. When you're doing a lot of work already to look through a bunch of resumes and figure, you want the best person for the job, and you're digging and finding that person. If you already know someone because they came in and talked to you and you're like, oh my God, that person was perfect for that job, that saves a lot of time.
Yeah, and you have this perfect halo as like a student. You're not like, I need a job right now. It's just like, I'm just coming, I want to ask questions, I want to know about this profession. If I get a job, I don't even care. So sometimes they'll just let you interview, and that's valuable. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you.